This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Shopping is hard, right? But there's a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And she sends just for me pieces. Plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what I love and send back the rest. It's so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. This is Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Central Texas Life, and I'm so happy to have Mike Braun here in the studio for the podcast today, and we are going to talk, well, we're just going to go walking down memory lane is what we're going to do.
Sounds good.
Talking about KWTX radio.
Yes.
And so, Mike, this has been a passion of yours for a while, maintaining the history of this, legendary station in Central Texas.
Yes, that's right. I'm no longer on the air, so I fell behind the scenes and have done research and collected material about Central Texas broadcasting, but KWTX in particular.
Well, and you've still got the voice.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Very definitely got the pipes for the radio gig. Of course, my connection with KWTX, like you, I started working on the FM not long after it went on the air. But let's go back to the very beginning. It was not the first radio station. That would be WACO, which is another one of my employers from back in the day. But and WACO was located in this building, the Ellico.
Yes.
But let's talk about when TX, as we lovingly called it, went on the air.
It got started April of 1941 when Buford Jester made an application to the Federal Communications Commission for a new radio station in Waco. Buford Jester was an attorney from Corsicana, and I think it would be safe to say that he was politically motivated and politically connected. His father had served as a Texas state representative, a state senator, and lieutenant governor. And when Buford made the application, he was serving on the Texas Railroad Commission. He would be elected governor in 1946 and reelected in 1948. And unfortunately, less than a year later, he passed away. And he is the only Texas governor to have died during his term in office.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a period of time, though, before that license was granted, though, right?
Yes.
So he filed for it in 41, and then a little thing happened.
Yes, World War II.
Yeah.
And the FCC suspended approving broadcast license applications. And Jester appealed that decision, saying that, well, we had started to acquire equipment before the war, and I made my application before the war, and he thought that he should be able to be given the license. The FCC disagreed. They implemented some wartime restrictions, and that meant that raw materials, manufactured goods, labor should all be go toward the war effort. And so the license was in suspension for the rest of the war. And all he could do and his investors could do was wait until those restrictions were lifted, which actually meant to the end of the war.
Yes. So it was, though, in 46.
Yes.
And Buddy Bostic, that's when M.N. Bostic got involved, right?
That is
Let's
correct.
talk about that.
That is correct. The license was given out just before 1945, and the first step was to hire a station manager that would oversee the construction of a radio station from the ground up, and also, once it went on the air, to oversee the operation. And that's when Mr. Bostic, Buddy Bostic, was hired to be the station manager. He was 28 years old,
Yeah.
and he was the youngest radio station manager in Texas at that time.
What was it? What got him interested in that? Do you know what?
I've talked with Mr. Bostic several times in the past, and he said that he always knew that radio was going to be his career. And he went, I guess we could back up even earlier than that. Listeners to WACO would tune in to hear 11-year-old little Buddy Bostic play his guitar and yodel.
I did not know that.
And that nickname, Buddy, stuck with him the rest of his life.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Oh, that's awesome. So that's how you got the name Buddy. Well,
Yes.
and so the first station is currently in Waco now, the Texas Music Cafe.
Yes.
And I had a chance to be there for Zach Owen's first podcast there. And that's where I learned, yes, this is where KWTX first radio station was, in this building.
Right, right. They rented the second floor of what was then called the Colgan Building. It's at 108 South 6th in downtown Waco. And they hired a Dallas architect, a prominent Dallas architect by the name of George Dahl, to remodel that second floor. Dahl was an expert in fast-track construction, which was key at the time. They wanted to get the station on the air as quickly as possible. So Dahl's approach was, instead of finalizing an architectural plan before construction began, was to design and build it in phases. He would design one phase, the construction would start, he would move on to the other. That speeded up the whole renovation and remodeling of the second floor.
Yeah, and you have it's a very grainy picture. It's kind of hard to tell. But the acoustics in that room were kind of interesting. There's a piano. It's very, very grainy.
Yes.
But they're like huge cylinders.
Yes. They hired a University of Texas physics professor by the name of Dr. Charles Bonner, and he was an expert in architectural acoustics. And he had come up with a way to take thin, long plywood panels and bend them into a half cylindrical shape. And then those cylindrical shapes were attached to the wall. And that was to eliminate echo and smooth out low and high-pitched tones.
Interesting. So obviously they were doing music up there.
Yes,
I mean,
there's a piano
Buddy
shown in the
certainly
original.
had a background
Yes.
in that. And of course, there's a cute picture of him tooling around town, and I guess the first news unit.
Yes,
they had.
he could be spotted driving around the Waco neighborhoods in this Jeep with a public address system, and what he would do is announce the programming schedule on KWTX. And when he took a break, he put the microphone up to the radio speaker and broadcast the programming that was going on then.
Drive
Yes.
around with it. Well, my mother listened to KWTX, and then at noon she switched over to WACO so we could hear Paul Harvey.
Right.
And then she'd go back to KWTX. So I grew up listening to the broadcasters at the time. Of course, this gentleman here became very important in my life,
Yes.
Frank Fallon.
Frank Fallon.
I presume he hired you as well.
Yes, I always say that I'll be always grateful to Dave South, who was the programming director on
Yeah.
AM and FM, Frank Fallon, who was the radio station manager, and Buddy Bostic for hiring a young novice broadcaster to spin records and talk on the radio.
Okay, there you are.
That's me
And so that was on TXAM.
on AM. That's late 1970s.
Okay, well, in the early 1970s, the FM station signed on the air.
Yes.
And the reason I know, I was working there as the receptionist. Frank Fallon decided that they needed to have someone answering the phone after the PBX operator left for the day at 5 o'clock.
Right.
So he kind of put the word out. A lady in my church, Ev Dillinger, worked for KWTX in bookkeeping, and she knew me, so she put us in touch. Thought I could answer the phone. And I'll never forget, he called. I had written out a script of what I was going to say to this. I mean, anyway, so he hired me to work in the afternoons, after school, 5 to 8, I think is what we did, answering the phone. And but when he found out I was only 15 years old, he said, don't tell anybody your age, because it was very much not according to law, you had to be at least 16. Of course, now I think it's 18. I don't know what the age is now. But I turned 16 working at KWTX as the switchboard operator.
Right.
And then FM signed on the air, and he needed some announcers. So that's how I got into broadcasting.
Right. It signed on December 1970, the FM station.
Yeah, I think we had, there's a there's a very young Ann Wells.
Yes.
With the big glasses. Yeah. Long hair. Yeah, and it was the beautiful sound. It was, well, let's see, there's a couple of the little ads. This one, 97.5, was FM.
Right.
Beautiful stereo music.
You're right.
It was the Golden Sound.
The Golden Sound, 97.5 FM.
Yeah. So, and it was very low key. It was very, you didn't say your name. You did not, there was no personality. We had headlines at the bottom of the hour, and we gave time and temperature. And that was,
Right, on the quarter hour time and
was it.
temperature. The half hour, the short news report and a weather forecast. Top of the hour was Mutual News.
Yes. And I remember looking through the window from FM into AM and see the AM board operators, which is what you were, and they had this patch board.
Yes.
They'd have to plug things in, and they had to sign off as a third phone FCC engineer to sign the station off the air. And I thought, oh, that's just mind blowing. And I would have nightmares that I would have to go in there and try to run the board. And sure enough, before I knew it, I was actually working as a as a board operator in AM as well, mainly monitoring Astros ball games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've carried Astros baseball, and if they had an afternoon game, we recorded that game and played it back at night.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the sign-off, I remember well the sign-off with Frank's voice.
Yes.
To the music of Midnight Serenade. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Brings back a lot of memories. A lot of memories.
A lot of memories. And it's still, I guess, what is the 97.5? I mean, it's still out there, right?
Yes.
Is it the Bears still or not?
I don't recall, but it's from the time it first signed on the air, it's more contemporary than what it was before.
Oh, yeah. We laughingly called it elevator music.
That's exactly right.
But I loved it as a teenager, playing Mantovani.
Yes.
And I think that record, is Mantovani and Percy Faith.
Percy Faith, Ray Conniff.
And we could have 2 vocals an hour, remember?
Right.
So Andy Williams.
Yes.
Johnny Mathis, those wonderful crooners. And that's what, when my contemporaries were listening to Iron Butterfly and stuff, this is what I was cutting my musical teeth on, and still love that era of music.
Yes. Dave South said that it was sometimes difficult to find announcers that wanted to work part-time for minimum wage and play very easy listening music for up to 6 hours in a small closet.
I loved it. Oh my goodness. But yeah, of course the television station was there at the time, and but your background wasn't, you didn't do any work for the TV station.
Not in TV. Of course you saw everyone in the building. It was a family atmosphere when we were on Bosque.
Oh, well, and of course, I was sitting at the front desk, as a teenager, and Chip Moody, Doug Brown, Chuck Williams was the sports guy. Of course, Ron, and then I worked with Ron at WACO. Later worked with Frank at WACO as well. It was the hardest thing for me to call him Frank because he was always Mr. Fallon.
Yes. Brings back a lot of memories, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I love it. And of course, Buddy's vision, he had it for a television station as well. And of course, it signed on the air in 55. And I was a teeny weeny kid, because I was born in 54. They had a show called Uncle Elihu that people may recall. And I barely remember going to that. I just remember there's something called Possum Grins or something involved. But children's television was a very big thing back in the 50s.
Bob Martin was Uncle Elihu.
Anyway.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Yeah, it certainly was an important part of Central Texas life, for sure. Those early broadcasters and the credibility that they gave, and the just the news and information and
Right.
all that. So you worked there, you said in the late 70s.
In the late
correct?
70s, yes.
There you are.
I started in 1975.
Okay, in 75. And I had already moved on to WACO by then. So we weren't contemporaries there, but obviously knew a lot of the same people that were there. Who kind of sticks out in your mind that you remember?
Well, other
Aside
than
from Frank and David.
Dick Aldama.
Oh, yeah.
Don Kaiser.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
yes.
Did you go to the service?
Yes,
I went to his funeral. Yeah,
just recently here.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And some of the news people that would come in, Roy Cook would do his weather.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those are the
I
names
guess
that really stick in my
Doug
mind.
Brown had already left.
Yes.
Probably by
yes,
then. He went to Houston.
Yes.
And knew of him certainly down there as well. Gosh, just really wonderful people. And so you can see how very young people we were when
Yes.
we got inoculated early. And broadcasting is just something that gets in your blood.
It does. You know, I grew up with those names that we have mentioned, either
Yeah.
watching them on television or hearing them on the radio.
Yeah.
So it was very exciting then to be able to work in that
Okay,
same
here's
building.
another one. Frank Newport. Did you remember Frank Newport?
That does not ring a
well,
bell.
okay, he predated you. He went on and he was one of the higher ups in the Gallup Corporation, Gallup polling people. He was always the face that, when they were interviewing somebody about a Gallup poll, would be Frank Newport. I'm sure he's retired by now. But yeah, it can be a stepping stone business. So what have you done? You said you're no longer a broadcaster.
Well, when I left Waco, I moved to Fort Worth. That was about 1980. I went to work for Radio Shack's National Advertising Department as a advertising copywriter. And I have pretty much followed that path since then, off and on.
Yeah, well, that's great. Getting back to KWTX, they moved to the location there on Bosque, across from the Coliseum, that is now Oakcrest Funeral Home.
Right.
And it's kind of weird to go in there for a funeral and remember, well, that's where this office used to be. And
yes,
yeah.
Walls have been removed. It's a little bit difficult to find out.
Yeah.
And to gauge the area, the
Yeah.
space, it's different. You think it was a lot smaller when I worked here, but it seems to be more open to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they moved into that building in about 1952, moved from downtown.
Right, and then they built the new location for, KWTX TV. I was the radio station. I don't think
Yes.
was it still part
Yeah,
of it when they moved out
when
to
they moved,
Loop 340?
Yeah, when they moved from Bosque over to American Plaza, it was both TV and radio. But in 1986, they sold the AM and the FM stations,
Right.
which really ended the association that Buddy Bostic had with KWTX radio after 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it moved down the street to WACO.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
then they were in the building again. I did not work for the Bear. I think they called it the Bear then, 97.5. But it was just interesting to see how things move around, kind of full circle.
That's true.
In our lives.
That's true. Now that's owned by iHeart Radio.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was. I want to say not Gulf Star, but it was
It
something.
was.
Is that
Yeah.
was
It originally
am I saying that
sold to
name right?
Gulf Star.
Gulf
Yes.
Star is what it was, because they had bought WACO. And just another little thing, the whole garage there at WACO in that building, that was supposed to be Channel 25.
Yes.
And they had the license and all that, but just could not get the funding together to put the station on the air. And then in 87, 86, 85, anyway, I should know, I worked for KXXV for 25 years. But yeah, in fact, they're about to celebrate a big anniversary, a 40th anniversary at KXXV. So they opened, where
Right.
they are now, out on New Road.
Yes.
I kind of worked at all of them.
Yes. Yes.
At some point or another.
Full circle.
Very definitely full circle. So just your thoughts about doing this study, into the history. What has that meant to you? I know people can find articles on the air, online, because I have.
Right, right. Well, it's been very interesting to me. I've really gotten into it. Some of the material is difficult to find. For example, the photos that you showed of the original studio, the original lobby, I have never run across original prints. Those were taken from a newspaper ad that was run on the day the station first went on the air in May of 1946. So I have enjoyed finding things associated with KWTX and just researching its history, which to me has been very, very rewarding.
Yeah, I wonder if the Devers have any old photographs or anything. Have you?
Well, a couple of years ago, the daughter, Ellen, and Ray, we went down to the original location up on that second floor, and she, I think she enjoyed just looking around. Of course,
bet that brought a lot of memories.
there's nothing there, and it was very difficult to say, well, this was here or that was there.
Right.
But she had fun revisiting it. She said, I remember coming here in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
So I that was very rewarding to bring her along.
And of course, Ray worked
Yes.
at KWTX.
Oh,
and I
yes.
remember when their boys were young, and when Frank's boys were all young. So anyway, it's this really has brought back a lot of great memories, though. And I'm so glad we got a chance to kind of get back together and talk about this great history of a iconic radio station
Right.
here in Waco.
And there's a lot more.
Okay.
Okay.
What more? Just of course, the tornado, that was a big deal. That was
Yes.
kind of a big deal in
Yes.
'53. And just thinking back, of course, WACO was, as I say, was here in the Alico building, and Goodson McKee, and I just remember hearing about all that. It was before I was born. But of course, you said Buddy, as a pilot, would fly over the city and was doing
Yes.
announcements
Yeah,
about the tornado.
The chief engineer worked up a way where he could broadcast from the plane onto into the air over KWTX, and he would fly around Waco after the tornado and describe the destruction to the listeners.
Well, and of course, at the time that had to have been very informational and instructive to them, and we don't have the, with drones and all the kind of technology we have now, you can immediately see all kinds of things. And it was such a horrific event.
Yes. Yes.
For the city.
Yeah. So that he was a pilot because he trained as a pilot during World War II.
Yeah.
In a P-51 fighter plane.
Well, he always had a private plane.
Yes. Yes.
I remember that.
Yes.
And working for
Yeah.
him. So.
Flew it all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very definitely. Just so much about this. Do you have another project ahead?
Not right now. tell my wife, I said, I'm involved in 10,000 hobbies and projects, and several of them are going at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. Oh, well, this has been so much fun. And I appreciate all the hard work that you have done to get this information together. And
My
then,
pleasure.
so where can someone find, I mean, I found the article just kind of Googling,
Right.
KWTX and your
Right.
name.
You could Google KWTX, and there are several articles out there about the station and the FM station, and you might find some photographs as well.
Yeah, but not planning to do a hard book, publish a book, maybe.
Probably not on KWTX, but I'm interested in the first radio station in Waco, 1922, which was WJAD. It was
Really?
put together by Frank Jackson, who had an electronics shop at the time, and he broadcast about 3 hours a day, and on a very small wattage station of about 15 watts. Over the next several years, he was able to make operational and engineering changes, the FCC allowing him to increase power. And he received letters and cards from all over the United States of folks that had picked up the station from Waco.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in looking more into Frank Jackson and WJAD.
That is so interesting. And, the technology was so new, but people were anxious
Yes.
for this kind of communication possibility.
And a lot of folks were building their own receivers, buying all of the electrical parts and whatnot and putting them together themselves because, there wasn't a big market for manufactured radios back at that time.
Yeah.
Radio was just getting started.
Well, it's fascinating, and I'm so glad that you have done this to bring this to light, and all these great photographs. Now, this one of Frank Fallon, Mr. Fallon, doing a Pipkin drug commercial for television. It's been great to visit with you. Well, I have to end these chats with a little questionnaire similar to the one the late great James Lipton would use for Inside the Actors Studio. So this is my take on it. Mike, what is your favorite word?
Favorite word? That's a good one. I can't think of a favorite word off the top of my head. I keep thinking of television shows when I think about words, How about 2 words?
Okay.
All right, Perry Mason. That's one of my favorite television shows.
Okay,
with
good.
Raymond Burr.
Good. Okay. All right. What is your least favorite word as far as words go?
That's a good one. That's another good one. You're putting me on the spot.
That's the point.
I can't think of one.
Okay.
I really can't.
All right. You're fine. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
The search for information.
Yeah.
To find out what happened, why
Yeah.
it happened, why it's happening now, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's cool. You're a historian, too. What turns you off spiritually, creatively, or emotionally?
Bad television commercials.
That's why we like streaming services, because we kind of avoid a lot of that.
Yeah.
But, having worked in commercial broadcasting most of my life, keep those cards and letters coming in. I believe in commercials. It's important to have those. What is your favorite sound?
Favorite sound? A whistle.
Really? Cool. What is your least favorite sound?
Very low-based thumping music.
Oh, gosh. Good. That's a good one. I've not heard that too often. I've heard the sound, but nobody's told me that that's their least favorite. That's very good.
Some people suffer from misophonia, which is an aversion to certain sounds. Maybe I have
I
a part
just
of
heard
that.
somebody talking about that the other day, and for that person, it's the sound of someone chewing,
Yes,
crunching or whatever,
right.
or chewing gum.
Yeah.
Someone has told me that, chewing gum.
Yes.
Okay, what job would you like to have tried that you didn't do? I mean, you've kind of worked a couple of dream jobs, but
I wish I could play the piano,
okay.
which my mother wanted me to play the piano way back in the day. And she even went to, I think, Halsey Music to buy a piano.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think I tried it one time. I don't remember this. And she said, that's it. He's not going to pursue it. I'm not going to pursue it for him.
I've still got the piano from Halsey Music Company,
yes.
but I don't play very much either. What job do you know you would not want to do? No thanks.
Ooh. No job. Well, that's a good one. I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
I've always been in jobs that I've enjoyed.
Okay.
And avoided anything that doesn't look like I would, enjoy.
Okay, that's that's it. Like people have said, anything to do with medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I couldn't give shots.
Right.
Because I don't like shots. So
exactly.
I know that I couldn't.
We're
do
glad
that.
somebody
Yes.
is willing to
but
do that.
We are glad. Yes.
But no, I don't want to do that. In fact, it's funny. I had a doctor at once who said would not want to do anything with legal stuff, and then I had a lawyer say not want to do anything with medicine. So it's a good thing.
Yes.
People like to do different things. One last question for you then. What do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you have been most welcome here on
Thank you.
Central Texas Life. Thank you so much for these just wonderful opportunity for me to go down memory lane, but to talk about the great KWTX AM and FM and what they meant to this community and to us personally, really.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you, Ann, for inviting me.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you for being with us. We'll see you next time on Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.